So we're not going to spend a ton of time on the Pythagorean theorem, but I have to cover it for section 12.9. So maybe a short videotape today, but we're going to cover a lot of material. In fact, we're going to start a little bit of geometry today. Which is not like it's some big shock that you're starting geometry, because you've been doing geometry for a while now. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is what you need to memorize. There are other ways that you can write it. C squared minus b squared equals a squared, or c squared minus a squared equals b squared. But you don't really need these because you now know very well how to solve an equation. What you do need to make sure you always keep in mind is that C has to be your hypotenuse, and you can tell which one is your hypotenuse because it's the one that's opposite the right angle. And you know which one is the right angle because they specifically draw the little box in it to tell you that it's the right angle. So the one directly opposite the right angle is your C. Incidentally, your C is also the longest side. So if you're looking at it, you can tell that it's longer than A or B. Now, you may wonder what happens if there's not a right angle in it. Well, if there's not a right angle in it, then you can't use the Pythagorean theorem anyway. It has to be used with right triangles and only right triangles. So don't worry about there not being a right angle in it. There's always a right angle in it. For number 7 on the worksheet, and by the way, got a little worksheet for you. Got the worksheet because I didn't like the problems in your book. I'd rather you look at pictures before you start worrying about not having pictures and having to draw your own pictures. We're going to get to some of that once we get into geometry, but until then, I'd rather you have a picture to look at. So, got a worksheet. Number 7 on the worksheet looks like this. I wanted to cover number 7 for you because it's a little bit more difficult than some of the other problems. So for number 7, they tell you that this side is 16 and that this is 12. And then they have some symbols in here. They have these symbols here, which tell you that those angles are the same thing. And then they have these little symbols down here, which tell you that this side right here and this side right there are the same length. So that means that this angle right here has to be 90 degrees as well, because if that side is 90 degrees, the other side has to be 90 degrees. So that means that we do have a right triangle on this side, where one side is 16 and one side is 12. So I can figure out what this side down here is. My marker's dried up on me. Can't handle that. Let's get a different one. So I'm going to call that little side A. So we know that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Always start with the formula until you've memorized it. Which side of this do you think our c is going to be? Well, yeah, it's going to have to be the one opposite that. So that means it's going to be our 16 that goes here. It doesn't matter what two things go here as long as 16 goes here. And then over here we can have 12 squared plus a squared, or whatever other letter you want to pick there. Or you could have had a squared plus 12 squared. Either way, you're going to get the same thing. So this is going to be 144. Oh, sorry, 16 squared. 16 times 16, 256. And then I can subtract 144 from both sides. Now your book is going to tell you that you can use the calculator to figure these out. And I'll let you use the calculator to figure out the squares, but you can't leave your answer as a decimal. That's a big no-no. No decimal leaving. So 256 minus 144 is 112. And then we have to take the square root of both sides. We get a on that side. and we get the square root of 112. Well, you can't leave it as that, because 4 goes into 112, and 4 is a perfect square. So we have to figure out what the square root of 112 is. Four goes into that 25, 26, 27, 28 times. 28 times is 4 times 7. So now 2 on the inside make 1 on the outside. So A is equal to 4 square roots of 7. Write a prettier 4. But that's not my answer. That's what this side is. They wanted us to find the whole side over here. So if A is equal to 4 square roots of 7, that means the other side must be equal to 4 square roots of 7, which means X must be 8 square roots of 7. Because that's what they asked us for. That's why I did number 7. And that's the way I'd want you to leave your answer too. No decimals. Can't leave them as decimals. So sorry. Let's look at number 6. It looks like it's going to be hard. They call this X and this X, which means they must be the same length because they call them the same thing. Which one is my hypotenuse, though? Well, yeah, it's the 8 square roots of 2. So that means A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So X squared, because it's not the hypotenuse, plus another X squared, because it's not the hypotenuse, has to equal 8 square roots of 2 squared. X squared plus X squared is 2X squared. 8 squared is 64. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which is 2, so that's 64 times 2. So 2x squared is equal to 128. Divide both sides by 2. X squared is equal to 64. Take the square root of both sides. X is equal to 8. Which means this side is 8 and that side is 8. There is nothing you need to plug this into. One more problem. Number 10. In number 10, they gave you a picture off to the side that said that this was X and this was Y and this was Z. And they showed you where your little right angle was, so we know that Z is our hypotenuse. And then they tell you Y equals 24 and Z equals 26. And they want you to use the Pythagorean theorem to find out what the other side is. Those are some big numbers. Just say it. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. A squared, we're going to let be 24. So that'll be 24 squared plus B has to be our X, so that's X squared, equals C has to be our Z, which they said was 26 squared. 24 squared is 576, I know, because I used a calculator to get it. Plus X squared is equal to 26 squared is 676, I know, because I used a calculator to get it. trying to get the x squared by itself, so I subtract 576 from both sides. X squared is equal to 100. Take the square root of both sides. X is equal to 10. Piece of cake. Which makes you wonder, well darn, what's the homework and classwork? Because that was easy. Okay. It's all on this page. Not much at all. Homework on that page is numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8. Classwork on that page are numbers 1, 3, 5, 9, and 11. You can check them because I sent the answers to all of them to your mother. So she'll be able to have the answers just like she'll have the worksheet if you don't have the worksheet already. So you can go and get it from her, and then you'll be able to do your work. And you won't have to worry about a page out of the book because it's on the worksheet. Okay. I even wrote down what the classwork and homework was on the worksheet. I'm telling you, I am stellar on this thing. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.